Hello traders, this is Alex with the StockMatrix program. I have an update, kind of a weekend update. We did have quite a few trades this week, turning it from a total ass bear into a neutral to bull. Here's my X account, pretty standard intro here. I put these trades on. I might not do a video every time, but I do put the trades on the best I can and some other stuff as well. But that's, if you ever need to know where we're at, that's a good place to start or to review. Let's go to the bar chart. This is a nice service. This is where we keep our trades on to see where we're at. We're at about 25,000 plus. We had about 68 trades. Again, I just put $1 per trade, so I know how many trades I've had. Of course, there's 17 select stocks we have calls or puts on, so 17 of those are current positions. I just put a Google average account size 150 just to know what percentage we make on, and we're not using near that much, but we did close out about 22,301. That's up 9%. Of course, all the trades I put on initially on January 6th, which was the arbitrarily start date, were all losers. So again, it was a low, and I had to go with the trend, so it was all losers. So if it had a couple trades winners, it would have sure been much better. But hey, that's all right. That's how it works. The system don't care. I don't. I would try to alter it always a little bit, but we had some good trades in there, and we manage it a little bit. When it gets deep in the money and time's running out. You can see like NVIDIA here. We got these puts on. We haven't made anything, but the time is running out, so we'll have to manage that. I have just specific, simple rules, right? 2 weeks prior to expiration, we're out and roll it to the next one if we don't get traded out of these. Now, again, I'm in August right now. Any of the new trades, you can see that these are basically ones that have flipped from calls, right? So, of course, the Amazon one they had a screw up, but had to use August anyway. But yeah, most of all these August ones are the new positions. Mostly all calls, right? Because here just a week ago, we had all puts. And so now we have over half calls. And you can review that and pause it and take a look at it. Now let's go to the actual stock matrix program. Here is the statistical page that I kind of like to keep track of. And it's not important to the system, but I like to keep, because again, I trade it, some of the stuff a little differently than the system, but the system itself is a starting point, right? But it's done real well. So as a system goes, a non-thought process, it's done real well. Again, these are some of the annuals coming in. Highs, lows on Google has some pretty important ones. Plus, it's 90 degrees over, or 90 days, calendar days, right here, probably Tuesday, I guess, or Monday. So that's a pretty interesting one. We had one basically over the weekend and one Friday. This one Lynn was Friday, IBM was Friday, again Friday over the weekend. So, and again, these are all, again, you can see it right here. These are all the 45s. Now, I'm going to get off track a little bit. 2025, the numerology behind that's pretty important, and why. Yeah, let me get through this stuff first, and if I come back to it, or just look it up. But 2025 is pretty important numerology-wise for you people out there that like the numbers. But let's move on here. Let's go to the trade sheet. And again, we did flip it now to we have more longs, or basically more calls on, right, than we do have puts. Now, just the other day, on the 22nd, which was over a week ago now, but we had 17 puts on. And the short term started spinning about on the 6th. Well, I don't update this every day, because I got to click this button. And I click it and it automatically saves it. So, but anyway, you can see on the 17th that we started, or the 23rd, excuse me. On the 16th, we had a big day on the short term trends, which kind of started the movement. It oscillated a little bit, but that was the warning sign that probably we were going to come off all these puts and leave a lot of money on the table, because we had 70 grand profits. Now we only have 22. But again, that's how it is, right? Because again, you're following the trends, trying to find those dynamic pushes. A lot of these markets we did collect 60% on, so and 130 or 300% on the options that we made. So anyway, let's go now to the actual charts. This is the stock matrix chart. Here's NVIDIA. Kind of had a double top up there and did drop into this bear market that we're in. It has not broken. We have not gotten long yet. It's close. Gap up Monday could definitely spin a lot of these, I think, to the upside. 360 degrees over from this low was this low. So on the moon basis, right? April 23rd full moon, and this was April 13th full moon. So again, it was a full cycle, basically an annular on the moon basis. Don't want to get too deep into that. You can see the previous solar eclipse was this low, right? That's why the solars, to me, I could go into a whole spiel on the solars, but here is META. And you can see that we, again, bulls, big outside period, and follow through. Again, we left a lot on the table. We got stopped out here, right? Left all this on the table. But again, if you're following trends, that's the thing that's going to happen. The swing traders are probably still a little bearish. And you look back at the past, again, pretty interesting how everything's set up. Nice bull trend turned into a bear, or some type of corrective move. But again, it was definitely beyond a corrective action price-wise. Here is Coke. I'm kind of going back further than I normally do just to show you the whole chart. So I'm pausing it every time to get it there. Anyway, you can see bull trend, bear trend, bull trend. So this is the previous one. This one right here, this dotted line, it's a duplicate here. So again, we did do pretty close to an actual, made new highs, but this was a higher low. So again, we're a little higher than that. So again, we're struggling to make new highs and stay up there. Makes sense to me. So anyway, 360 degrees over from that low was this high. So again, it's probably pretty ripe for me to definitely, like I said, I have a hard time buying new highs in Coke. Now you might buy the dip or click on your volume day and buy those high volume bearish days. Google, this is one that we kind of went long this last moon period, the previous one. And again, it had a big outside period, which is, again, if you follow me, I kind of consider that sideways. So again, no follow through makes sense to me. But you can see we went from a pretty good bull, a big outside sling down, in January, down to the lows. So pretty bearish. Again, it went through the previous solar eclipse lows, which is, again, a little concerning longer term. And here is, just a market that's kind of trading, I think. Again, you can see makes new highs, then it makes new lows. So pretty tough trading logically on the swing patterns for sure. Microsoft here, going back, again, this is kind of when I started charting this stuff in preparation for the system that we're trading. You can see I didn't chart everything, but I did chart the closes on the important stuff. That's why you see gapping data here. But again, the stop got raised up to here, so a little more manageable than all the way down into new lows. But again, we got long here prior to this gap up, which was stupid. Again, Microsoft has an AI. What the crap? I mean, fire whoever programmed an AI. You should never have a gap in a chart. Well, you can't. I mean, it don't make any sense to me. It's just stupid. The quarterly numbers are just screwed. I don't understand it. But anyway, I've been beating that dead horse. These people with AI, I think, want these gaps because there's no way a computer program, AI intelligence would not know that there's going to be a gap or the data is changing, right? Anyway, here's Amazon. Let me go back to a little further data. You can see that, we're just kind of banging around. Now, Amazon had some bearish action. And then the big bull, and then, all this way here, Jeff Bezos is getting out. Well, it made new highs like for 6 months on that news. And then once they didn't report that news anymore, the high came in and down we went. System got short here, finally got stopped out here. So it was a good trade. And now we're not long yet. This again, it missed it. We were right here, right? Because I use a 3-bar deal, right? So here's your 3 bars. The stop was here, and now I moved it since we're done with this period to here, right? Because then here's your next 3-bar area. So, and then of course the stops, if we go long, will be put down here. It's a simple algorithm. Here's Apple. I don't want to waste your time going, but you can see that the eclipses back in 2024 was basically a low. A year from that low on the moon periods was this 360 degrees, right? So this was that spike low, which told me to be careful, not be bearish at the low. We did not make a new low though. So now, of course, we left a crap ton on the table there as well. We got, we got spun a few times. It wasn't an easy trade based on my algorithm, my stuff that I use on the 3-box deal. Now we're below the solar eclipse. We have this huge gap where we're chewing through. Had a poor close today. We got long. This is one of them that we got long, I believe, yesterday, Friday, or Thursday, I guess. So, and then it had a crappy close on Friday. So it'll be interesting to see if it follows through or not. And we had a lower close, which is a ding, a little concerning for the bulls and a little prep for the bulls. Now, again, I could see it going back down in here. Maybe even, I would love a bear trap on some of these, because then that would get me activated on my other system that I traded. Anyway, Tesla, let's go back and look. I know it doesn't have a whole lot of data. But here was the low. It was on the full moon past the solar. So, and again, this low was on the lunar eclipse, which is a full moon. So kind of interesting, right? And this other full moon, which would have been a year from that, was this secondary event. So again, I know it's tough to trade on something you're not aware of, but that's why, and I just put this on a spreadsheet. You can create your own, right? So it's not that big a deal. But it's something different, right? I like it. It's not a weekly, because once we, right now we're basically on the weekends, it's like a regular weekly chart, right? But after you get, pretty soon will be a Monday is the next moon, or Tuesday or Wednesday, so it changes it, so it's not the same kind of chart. Now, if you're trading cryptocurrencies, you're trading 24/7, it definitely is a big deal. Because again, that then we don't worry about the weekends, right? So anyway, Tesla did go long up here. Another one of those trades that we bought. It had a same close as the previous period. Stop got moved to here, so a little more manageable. I don't really like that stop, but hey, whatever. I'd rather have it down here, but system don't care, right? It's just they don't care. Here's Leah, pretty wild trade. That bear trap was beautiful. Had the huge spin. You'd have been out the next day and doubled your money. But now, anyway, on the system, the stops are here. 45 days and 135 is kind of the possible thought process of some type of high or secondary low, right? We don't know. ED, again, is pretty nice trend up. We did get short here, and we're now, or short here, long. Yeah, we're short here and with stops up here. So now, again, wouldn't make sense to me. But anyway, the stops are here in the system. There's our 3-bar setup. It was here, and then we lowered it 1 notch. So anyway, we're here. We are squaring out this range, this moon period. So now that, obviously made new highs since then, so it's a little less relevant, but I still find it pretty important. Now, 360 degrees over from the previous low was basically 1 off from the high. Adobe, the weirdest gap in this freaking market ever. Just sell it by puts prior to the quarter report as a trade. If you lose, you're out to put money. But it's just been a bear. Somebody texted me that it's about the Doge, getting rid of all these. Where government's paying for a lot of Adobe through the government. So anyway, who cares? System don't care about that. We got long, so we are now again, it's a gap in Marty. So you're assuming, as like Microsoft, it had a weird ass gap the other day. Now we were long before that one. I could see Adobe kind of being the similar deal, have some weird ass gap. Especially, the weird ones are when it's during the week. Come on. This one is a negative, kind of weird ass gap, and got the short-term trend down, because of this action, and it closed kind of neutral. And then this is the back rally, still down, right? Because we haven't made a new high. So anyway, the stops are here. That's on IBM. Another weird, have an AI, but we got to have gaps. Come on. I guess you don't pay for the IBM AI because it don't work on their own stuff. Here is one we got long. BK. This moon period. Can't remember the actual. Well, I guess the actual date was April 30th. So that's when we got long. Nice looking chart. I mean, kind of a safer play. Bank of Magellan. Nice old bank, New York bank stock. Here's Procter & Gamble, another safe play, but it's a chop and Marty, bear trap city. 360 though from the low was this low. Stops now are moved to here, but same price. So JPM, we are 360 degrees over from the low was this low. So again, you're in this big volume push down. It was ugly and everybody was bearish. You're 360 degrees over from the previous low. I would think you just be careful. This gap, kind of a final gap, I think maybe. Here's the solar eclipse close. It got back to that. Again, just makes sense that not to be a bear anyway. Now the system went long, and now the stops are here. So I think I got long here. I guess I deleted it, but I think we got long here on April 23rd. Coinbase, again, one of the recent ones we got long there, April 22nd. Kind of one of the first 1 or 2 that went long. Was the most negative. We were down 60% on Coinbase to that low, so pretty ugly. Cintas, the chopper of choppers, big bull up, big bear down, 20 grand up, 20 grand down, chop of death, probably lose back 40 grand, right? It makes sense. So, zero-sum game. So again, but if you follow my stuff, Cintas and a lot of these that had those big rips down, the typical pattern in history is to see a new high, a year, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 months down the road, right? Sometime down the road, it'll make a new high. Just a grinder, and it'll keep grinding thereafter. Here's the Trump chart. If you've been following my stuff, and if you did participate in this Trump coin, you made a pretty good lick. I bought, some month, $1,100 worth or something. Anyway, I got out of about 60% on this pop, 16, 15. Kind of just got out because again, I'm a trader. I'm not a long-term coin guy. I mean, I have no idea what it even is. I think it's just a meme coin anyway. But it was 90 degrees over. That's what caught my interest, and it did not make a new low. So that's when I bought this. Anyway, but that's, again, markets, but it trades 24/7. So now this is a Gann square of the range on the moons. So interesting, right? A little different than what a lot of people would be looking at. But, how else do you chart it? Here was the open, probably a logical target back to that area. But that's a long ways away. At least it tells you now and a market that did something like this is now you're more comfortable buying the dips. Now, again, we're not done with this time period. May 4th, which is tomorrow, is when this will close out since it trades 24/7. Okay, let's now go to the dailies. First chart up is NVIDIA, NVDA, pretty well-known stock, obviously. You can see that I'm marking now April 7th was this low across most of the charts. There's a few of them that were a little later. But April 7th, so now you watch May 7th, which will be coming up next week. I can't guarantee anything. I just know that'll be a pretty active one because this was a pretty important low across the deal. And the NVIDIA also had a high on the 7th in January, kind of a double top, right? So the 7ths are doubly important for NVIDIA. Now the 21st was the first high, the primary, I guess you call it, and I mark those in here as well. So again, I try to use a different, so these red dots will be the 7th. The red circle things on all these charts is this low, which is a 5th, right? So again, it falls almost in line with everything that's going on. So basically, Monday, Tuesday will be pretty turnaround Tuesday. You got to be a little careful on these markets because it's still potentially, whether the system's long or not, don't matter to me, but it's still potentially, in some type of corrective move to get people long before the next smash. Now that's the bears talking, right? The bulls are going, oh, it's never going to break. It's over. Oh, this bye. Anyway, so the 17th on all these charts, so I'm going to just do this once. The 17 days over, the market days over from the 7th of April was this gap day on all the charts. So again, pretty important to me. This is a Gann thing, right? 11, 17, 22, 33. Now Gann used calendar days. I'm using market days. So it's a little different, but pretty close. The next one then is the 22nd on all these pretty much is May 8th. So, which, has some significance as well. So again, that's why you see these. Now again, I run them from the solar. Again, the starting day, the counting day is a solar eclipse. So that's important to me. And 33 is half of the matrix. So the complete matrix is 66 market days, which is basically your 90 degrees on your Gann, or 90 calendar days on the Gann thing, on the wheel, or whatever you're looking at. But anyway, you can see. So anyway, that all these charts that have this same low, all this is important to it. But NVIDIA, kind of hasn't proven much to me yet. Maybe it'll be the one that really gets going. But it's kind of the, do you buy the leaders or do you buy the pooch? Well, I think you stay away from the pooches. Or, if you're only going to have money to invest in X, Y, or Z, don't do the Z. Right? Do the ones that are the leaders. It's like people buy Bitcoin or the cryptos. Well, Bitcoin's proven it doesn't break as much as the other crap. So now some of the other crap has some wild moves, but over the long pull, Bitcoin is always, it's like gold versus silver. The poor man's gold is silver. Well, silver hasn't made a new high. Gold keeps making a new high. Again, that's the whole premise. You buy the pooch or you buy the leader. I think right now NVIDIA has proven to be the pooch. So anyway, here's again all the same setup. We did make an April 7th low, but we did have a bear trap, which I didn't have the money to trade. It cost about $1,400 to buy. One strike out of the money calls for 2 weeks. I didn't have the money. I was tied up in some other trap trade. Anyway, it was a great trade. You'd have doubled your money in one day. I always just try to double my money. That's no big deal. Right? Anyway, I got a video on that. You can go back and look if you're interested. Makes sense, right? But that was a perfect one. So anyway, we did go up. 17 days over was that May 1st, which was again that gap. 11 days over from this low now is May 6th. Again, here we got some stuff. 55 days over from the high is May 6th. This is a sequence of this low, this high, May 7th. So all important stuff. Here's Coke. Again, just kind of a chopper. It's struggling, gets new highs, you sell it. It gets new highs, you sell it. So I'm having a hard time being a real big bull. I don't know what the fundamentals, pricing is. But it appears to me anything above mid 70s is probably too high based on the fundamentals. Again, I'm not a fundamental guy, but it just makes sense that, you buy the dip, sell the rally until proven otherwise. 77 market days over from this low is Monday. And we do have, which is, we have this 10th high here. So that'll be coming in here as well. So pretty important for that market. Here's Goog. Goog has some annuals came in Friday, kind of gapped up. Still a little concerned that this might be still high. Again, Monday will be important. Again, 22 days over is the next zone. So again, pretty similar situation. Here's Microsoft. Again, what the frick is that gap? Really? Come on. In this day and age, that's just a crime. I don't like it. It pisses me off. That these guys with AIs and smart computers can't not know that that's going to happen? Come on. Well, let's just check it out. From the low to the high now is, damn, I can't see it. It's 27%. So, and 27%, we had an 11% gap up. Now the system got long here, so it didn't hurt our system, but come on. It don't make sense to me. But, that's trading, right? They try to get you. That's why a no thought press trade. I got long here, didn't even think about a gap. All of a sudden, ooh, big gap. Now again, if we get deep in the money, we might have to roll it, to manage that trade. Here's Google. Oops, I already did that one. Here's Amazon. We did have some timing off the high today, or Friday, excuse me. We did have a couple of annulars here, which we did take out. So, but we didn't close above it. So again, it's still a little questionable. And you can see that again, the same setup. May 7th is going to be important. Probably the 6th through the 8th, just on all these. Here's one that wasn't April 7th. It was actually the 8th. So that came in today, and it did gap down. We did have an annular, not that old one, 2019 high. So again, the solar eclipse has stopped it. It didn't even get into it. We do have a gap uncovered close. Now we got another one. So I have a hard time just being a blunt bear until we maybe try to fill it or get up into this gap a little bit or get into the solar range. I'm thinking up in here, and you can see this trend line is important. So, if it takes time, got a bunch of annulars coming in too, by the way, in May. So I just think it makes sense that it's just going to trickle higher. Here's Tesla. Now that was a pretty ugly one. I believe we're down 60% to the lows. So, a bunch of stuff came in. Kind of a head and shouldery look, a three-pronged low, which is beautiful. And then we've taken out the neckline for you guys that like the head and shoulder stuff. And it was an older high, right? 18th. So we got 18, which are marked here with these X's. And then the sixes was this primary low back in 2022. So anyway, that's what these are. But again, it sure looks like a tradable market. In my opinion, you buy the dips. Maybe you can buy strength. If there's timing on it. I prefer to buy the dip, so just my nature, I guess. Here's Lynn, a big bear trap, another one. This one was also the 8th, so this gapped up on the timing. Once again, pretty interesting. But it went to the solar eclipse. Didn't quite get there, again, which leaves a little bearish taste in my mouth. Here is ED, kind of near its highs. One of the bulls that, kept going up when Google and NVIDIA and all these other ones were kind of going down into their bear markets. We had a few that were bulls. And then once they gave up, then the other ones made a low. Go figure. Here's Adobe back to the solar eclipse, creeping. We got long, in here. It's just creeping along, so not much to say there. Expect a gap down anytime soon. Again, IBM has a big AI system. Look at all the gaps. Come on. That's going to be my bitch all year for these big companies that have their own AI that they promote as great. Well, and they can't even project their own stock right. Come on. Here's Bank of America, or Bank of Magellan. Again, back to the solar eclipse close, and then we close below it. Pretty easy if you're trading it, right? Kind of the target to go for. 44 days over, and this old high here comes in the 5th, so Monday or Friday, right? The other day or Monday. Here is Procter & Gamble. Chopper of choppers, a great trading machine, not a terribly high stock, so you can, if you trade on margins, I don't think it can be too crazy, or use your puts or calls because they're relatively cheap for $150 stock. But it doesn't go that much. But again, it's definitely a swinging Marty. You do the day counts, it's like 8 days up, 8 days or 5 days down. 12. I mean, it's pretty rhythmic, right? I haven't done the work on that, but it sure looks rhythmic just by a glance, and you can see that pattern. Let me go to a weekly. Man, that doesn't look bullish. This one didn't either, but it's like this one, the time, that one, percentage-wise, you're going to be pretty amazed. It is 41%, not terrible. Let's go from the high, click here. Now that's only 17% actual price. So if you do the 41%, if it follows percentages, you're down here, right, to 105. It's a little different than here. So, but the time, I don't know about the price, right, but the time is the element that I see keep reoccurring here. This market here didn't really change. We'll go on the secondary event. See, time, we just got so much time. It looks pretty close. This one was probably a similar one, probably a little faster. I'm going through this live with you so you kind of get a feel. It's still got time to go. It's September, for Christ's sakes. This is a weekly chart, so I don't know. You can see that they're kind of lining up a little bit. This is a quick little look at it. I'm not trying to advocate anything. I was curious for my own benefit. Let's move on. JPM, the diamond. This is, we didn't make a new swing high, so swing traders are probably, that are bearish or biting their fingernails. But we did take out the solar eclipse close and the high of that day, which is a pretty big day. So, and we gapped actually above it. So that's kind of intriguing to me. Not real bearish JPM. Again, plus silver struggling, right? If silver was like gold making new highs, which would be above 50 bucks, I think JP Morgan would probably be down at, 100, because again, I think they're short heavily these options and whatnot. But every day that goes by and it doesn't bust the silver up, all those options that are expiring in the favor, because they're probably short calls, right? Anyway, here is Coinbase, and you can see that a nice bear kind of followed the Bitcoin down. Made sense. Here's Cintas, again, one of the grinders. Similar to what I think it did here, it turned into a bear market, and it took a while, over a year, and then it finally made new highs, and still it made new highs, and still it just took time, and then it finally got a little faster, right? So again, I think this one's going to be a slow slog. It had 40, actually more than that. Really, it never went short this whole period up here, so it made 150% and dropped 20. So again, it makes sense that it could chop in here, but I think it's going to make new highs. It's a BlackRock stock. Here is the S&P, the E-mini S&P. Right now, off the close of last year, we are down 3.7%. Whoopee doo-dah day. It's just a small blip on the chart. The 12th was this low, which was post-COVID. So again, that's these dots here. So pretty important, right? And of course, here's the 7th. So it's all relative, right? I mean, the 19th is going to be important. So it's definitely a tradable market. Let's go to the Dow. This is the mini Dow chart. $5 Dow, and not back to the solar eclipses yet, so not much to preach there. We got the Nasdaq, the mini, again kind of in the range, but this one is above the solar eclipse close and the range, so pretty bullish to me. If you're a spreader between the indexes, definitely be long Nasdaq, short the Dow, which a lot of people hate that. But here's the QQQ, same situation, kind of above the previous solar eclipse ranges with a gap. So kind of good. April 7th was also effective. And I left this one in here because, again, this low was 33 off the high. So perfect scenario. And again, 66 will be coming up here, which will be the actual matrix sequence. All right, I am done chatting. Hope you all had a great week, and have a great week tomorrow. Or, excuse me, have a great week next week.